Hello and welcome to the Ultimatum RHAP-UP. I am Aysha and I am here so we can talk about episodes 7 and 8 of the Ultimatum Queer Love. Very excited to be here to talk about the drama that we saw. One of my co-hosts here, we have Mary Kwiatkowski. Mary, how are you?
Netflix is out here being messy in this drop. Ooh, there is nothing like a show about couples dating that they force a group outing so that we can see all of the intermingling, and I'm here for it. So I'm excited to talk this drop too.
And then our other co-hosts here, we have Dr. Evvie Jagoda. Evvie, how are you?
I'm so good. Yes. I feel like these two episodes are like the payoff. Like it's all been building towards like this and that group outing and everything. And I'm just so here for it. It's messy as hell. And I'm here for it.
It really is. And if you are wondering, oh, 7 and 8, what happened to 5 and 6? Go listen to our recap with the amazing Claire Rafson. We talked about episodes 5 and 6. We got into all of the details about all of the couples. So go listen. If you're listening to this and you didn't go listen to that, go listen to that first, then come back. And of course, we're assuming you have watched it. If you plan on watching, go watch this drop that dropped this week. Otherwise, this is full spoiler territory. We're talking about everything. Make sure you go subscribe to the Love at First Sight feed, as well as the Reality TV RHAP-Ups feed, where you can get this podcast. And then also make sure you subscribe to the Rob Has a Podcast YouTube channel, because we are there. We're here and our faces are there for you. And these two episodes we're not talking about alone. We are joined by an amazing guest, formerly from Showbiz Cheat Sheet, also a writer, a screenwriter. We have the amazing Nicole Weaver. Nicole, how are you?
I am great. I am here to bring some bisexual chaos. I basically pulled a Vanessa by hounding you guys to be here and cover some. So I'll bring it all back. But, I needed that energy to be chosen. And we all want to be chosen, don't we?
You haven't gone full Vanessa until you're like, oh, you know what? I just realized. I'm not sure if you meant Vanessa on this season or Vanessa Lachey. Because I was going to say, until you're like, where's the ultimatum, baby?
Oh my gosh.
No, I definitely met our pansexual Vanessa, who is just...
Makes way more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting seeing so many just like drastically different views on Vanessa. Some people are like, oh, Vanessa is a queen, she's amazing. And some people's like, no, she's problematic. So it's so fun that we can have such wide ranges of views on these couples.
The only one on this whole drop who's not even the least bit problematic is Sam, and I stand by that.
Yes.
Ooh, I got thoughts.
Oh, okay.
Oh no.
Well, I guess before we dive into all of the specific couples, Nicole, how have you been enjoying the season?
I have known about this for a minute. Won't say how, but I was just like, when are we getting an announcement? When are we getting a release date? And it's finally here. And it's just everything I have wanted and more.
Yeah, it's been like when it was announced, I was very excited, but I don't think I expected to like enjoy it. I am recommending this show to everybody I can get my hands on. Like, wait a second, but have you seen the Ultimatum Queer Love? I literally text like one of my friends the other day. I was like, I don't want to beg, but can you please watch it so we can talk about it?
Literally yesterday, my roommate wasn't feeling well, and then she watched the new drop and was feeling better. So like that's what this show can do, and everyone should be watching it for your health.
There we go. It's the best medicine. So let's there a lot happened between episode 7 and 8, and so we basically kind of got like the pre-group outing information. We got the group get together, and then the lead up to the ultimatum decision being answered. That countdown was kind of funny to me.
Yes.
So let's start with a couple of couples that didn't have much drama with the group outing and everything. So Aussie and Sam. So we're on the heels of Aussie, storming out once again, and Sam not wanting Aussie to storm out like this. And then we kind of get, Aussie's views on gender, and we also meet Aussie's brother, Ron. So what did you think about, I guess, we kind of got into this a little bit in the last recap.
Yes,
but
my bad.
No. Did you have more to say about Aussie's views on gender and gender roles?
I mean, it feels, I'm so glad that we got to meet Aussie's brother. I feel like that was extremely enlightening about the environment that they grew up in. We learned so much, like Aussie isn't out about Aussie's sexuality to the family. And it's just, I mean, it's so clear throughout these episodes, Aussie is dealing with a lot of stuff. And as we all are, but like, it feels like Aussie, like honestly really is having like a huge transformative experience here that does feel quite unrelated to the relationship with Sam. And I feel like that's like the biggest takeaway I have is like Aussie just like has a lot of stuff to unpack, and it's honestly really wild to get to see that happening on this show. But like I think it needs to happen before Aussie can like show up in a relationship the way that Sam deserves.
Yeah. Mary, did you have any thoughts on Aussie's brother?
Love Ron's hair.
Yes.
Yes.
Ron's hot.
What was surprising to me, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, it seemed to me like this is the first time Sam has met Ron, which I was surprised about. And unless Ron doesn't live around here and came for the show, but presumably if they're in the same area, it definitely feels like Sam has not met any of Aussie's family in general, which I'm surprised about, especially because, like Evvie said, there's a lot of like understanding of Aussie you can get through meeting Ron, that I almost feel like Ron would be like a good third party to observe some of their relationship and like help them in that way potentially. But at the same time, I don't blame Sam for being nervous about, Sam says that they've been in a relationship before with somebody who wasn't out, and that was difficult for them. So because it feels like Sam had a bit more of a supportive family structure, at least in terms of her sexuality.
Yeah, I mean, and we find out that Sam is like, look, if Aussie is not ready to be engaged, I'm gone. It's not even a teetering like, oh, we can see what happens. But Nicole, what did you think about I guess, this I guess is kind of like not a second ultimatum, but it's a hard ultimatum.
It is. I have so much compassion for Aussie. I think, we've kind of heard Mildred say like Aussie's 40 something, like Aussie needs to act more mature, but I think we need to keep in mind for queer people, timelines and ages for that normative stuff goes out the window for many things. Aussie is coming into Aussie's own when it comes to gender. That leads to like a new adolescence. Aussie has not come out to the parents, and Aussie made it clear that and Ron, their parents didn't allow them to think for themselves. Like that's new for Aussie, which makes sense of why Aussie gets triggered when people are kind of telling Aussie like what, like if they're doing something wrong. I could see how that can be very triggering. There is a huge like inner child in Aussie that is just begging to be safe, and that takes a lot of work. I think it's tough, and Sam does seem to be such a great partner. But yeah, just from my own experience, when you're dealing with someone who does not have a supportive like family, you are the one that's taking a little more, and it's really up to the other person then if they want that to continue, because we even hear later from Sam, like, we shouldn't have people in our life that doesn't feel like they're supportive. And it's like, you can't make that choice for Aussie, though.
Right.
Aussie might want that. And like that, then what does your life look like?
Yeah. I mean, getting into that, they met with Sam's friend, Charmaine, which probably you could just say Sam and Aussie's friend, because the way that Charmaine showed up for Aussie in this moment, I was like, oh, that's a friend to Aussie too.
Or just
Yeah, it was just because I thought it was just going to be another scene of Aussie running away, but no, we finally got to the root of why Aussie reacts this way to conflict. Were you going to say, Mary? Or go ahead, Evvie. Sorry.
My thought is that I go back and forth because I definitely have a lot of compassion for Ozzy, but I think that it's not the same as saying, I don't know if anyone's thinking this, like, oh, well, Sam needs to be Ozzy's entire support system and Sam needs to put aside what Sam wants in a relationship too. Like, Sam is looking at this, it looks like more in a terms of like, what do I want out of a marriage? What do I want out of someone who's going to, I'm going to be engaged to? And Ozzy needs a support system. Ozzy needs someone who can help Ozzy, go through their what'd you say, second adolescence, basically. Like, it's interesting because we don't have any context, where we don't know at what point has Ozzy come out to themselves, like discovered these things. These could be very recent, like this could, it could be the last 5 years, it could be, who knows, and it could be ongoing. And so, like, I have sympathy for Sam. Like, I definitely loved Sam's friend going out and trying to comfort Ozzy, but it's also kind of like the trial marriages. It's a lot easier to do that, once or twice than it is to do that every day, multiple times a day. And so it felt like we were seeing Sam just being like, I'm fed up with this. Like, I can't do this. Like, when is it going to be a little bit about what I want to and what I need from the relationship? Because Sam questions whether or not Ozzy doesn't like new Sam because they're not just being an enabler.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that scene with Aussie after the, like, in the parking lot or whatever, was honestly one of the most fascinating scenes I've ever seen on reality TV. Like just Aussie was just going through it. And I think it was really, I mean, they kept saying like this thing of feeling like they have this big defensiveness of like, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm being blamed for something. I didn't do anything wrong. And it feels like when I was a kid. And then it feels like huge trigger of like all this childhood stuff. And that's a theme throughout these 2 episodes, Aussie talking about Aussie's childhood and trauma there, basically. But I think it's like, I feel like Aussie, that's like, it feels like that's the first time they like had that realization. And that's like a lot that needs like big work. Like, I think they're at the stage of like I interpreted the, like, it feels like when I'm a kid as like Aussie being like, and I'm mad at Sam for making me feel this way, like I felt like I was a kid, instead of like I think the next level will be Aussie realizing, oh, I'm reacting to this because of my childhood trauma, and it's actually not about what Sam's doing at all. It's about my childhood shit, and like, or something. You know what I mean? That's my interpretation. And I think that's a hugely important thing for Aussie to realize like how much this past trauma is like impacting them. And when they said, I mean, I'm trying to be the perfect girlfriend, the perfect daughter, the perfect coworker, it's like they're holding everything so tight, and you can just like feel that from them. And it feels like that scene was just this huge release. And like, I think that's going to be like a pivotal moment in Aussie's life, honestly. But I do think this is like stuff they need to work on. This is self stuff. This is not self stuff, And
I think like this moment was huge. And I think the only thing that would have made the bigger difference if Sam was the one comforting Aussie. But I don't think this would have come out if Sam was the one that went out there, because Aussie associated this feeling of just like anxiety and just like, oh, I want to get away with Sam. And so I hopefully this is like a step in the right direction now that this has been identified. But I also do think that Aussie just needs self-work and just like intensive, like, okay, now that we've identified this, let's unpack it in order to be the partner that Sam needs. Because we like just want the best for Sam.
Yeah. And
I
like
don't want Sam to feel,
But yeah, Nicole, you said you had different opinions on that too.
I do. I've been waiting. So here's my thing. And I went to the very very first episode and watched like how Aussie and Sam were, how they talked about their relationship, Sam brought no problems up. And the sole problem in their relationship seemed to be, I just want marriage. Aussie seems to be very hesitant. And then through the trial marriage with Mildred's issues with Aussie, Mildred's then like, but you're enabling, and like Aussie shouldn't be able to act like this. But what was so interesting in that conversation is that Sam was like, yeah, Aussie sometimes just needs to like meditate and like maybe talk to a friend or something. And it's like, that's all healthy coping mechanisms. And somehow Mildred made that sound like that was terrible. And now we're seeing Sam, and Aussie said this, I feel like you're overcompensating. And I agreed, because there was a part where Sam says at a table with her friend that she has learned to speak up for herself and not enable. And then, but it's like, what is enabling? Because like, I still need to know what the enabling part is in that dynamic, or what she considers that. And then she starts labeling Aussie, which does naturally make you put up your defenses. She labels Aussie of having bad energy, and Aussie's like, I don't have bad energy. And then Sam says, you're being defensive, but there's no need for that because I'm talking. And it's like, and even Sam's friend was like, what is happening? Because like you're labeling instead of just talking, you're labeling your partner, having your partner put their guard up, and then being like, but you can't be defensive, I'm talking. And it's like, that's not how communication works. So I sadly think Sam kind of like backtracked in this process in hopes to learn to come into herself. And that's where I'm like, professionals for both. Like if a professional is here, like a professional will be able to learn, like parse out what was the healthy, safe part of this relationship and what was actually enabling. And then also being able to hold like Aussie accountable, because I can see it's tough to hold Aussie accountable. But in that whole conversation leading up, I'm like, Sam, girl, like this ain't it. This ain't it.
See, so the reason I disagree about Sam's growth, so I do believe she grew in this process in order to be able to speak up. But I think now that she's able to speak up, she has to like figure out how to speak up. Because now she's just like, hey, I'm speaking up. I'm just going to speak up, whatever just comes out. When, you know, there are things to consider when you speak up. You have to consider the person's feelings. How are they going to, you know, receive what I'm saying? Are they going to positively receive it? So I think in that, yeah, this was I guess like a byproduct of her just in this fresh era of speaking up.
Yeah.
That's
And you
what
kind
we
of see
see.
some resentment there. Like
Oh yeah, for sure.
when Aussie's talking about, yeah, you're hurting my feelings by speaking up in this way. Sam's like, well, I've always been doing this. So like, this is now progress of me doing it this way. And it's like, I kind of disagree. So yeah, and Aussie made it clear of what Aussie's issue was in that conversation. Aussie said, yeah, I feel like you're overcompensating, and this new Sam does not try to see my side at all. Sam then responded saying she doesn't know what she's asking for. And it's like, Aussie, it was so clear. You're not seeing Aussie's side. It was just, it seemed like now Sam had that wall up and they just weren't able to meet.
You know, I definitely hear that. Like, I think like, for example, in the scene at the end where Sam, like Aussie kind of was like opening up about, you know, like wanting to feel safe and things like that. And then Sam kind of like goes in with the needle of like, well, how are we going to improve that moving forward? Like, I do think like there's a time and a place, and like that was not the time and the place. But I think we see like in the way, so it's like, I don't think that Sam is perfect. And I do think that, I mean, I think it's really true, like you said, Nicole, that like Mildred was able to like shine a light on like some of this Aussie stuff that I think Sam clearly did really resonate with, though, you know? And I think in the abstract, like I also like when I first when Sam was saying, you know, Aussie needs to like meditate or like get out of the triggered state, like that is like there is a healthy, normal version of that. It does seem though that like Aussie, it's like so quick, so switch. And then I think the thing that like I think is being really revealed is it's not that Aussie is so overwhelmed by like fear of conflict. It almost feels like Aussie actually is about to like blow. Right below is just like so much anger, right? Really came out in the parking lot scene. So it's like, it's not this, I kind of expected to see it of like, like I can't express my feelings. I'm just gonna let me just go calm. But it's like you can feel this like blood boiling from them. And this is kind of what I was saying in the last drop, that like I find it really hard that when Aussie is kind of like, I don't want to talk about this, Aussie also has some little snide comments. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to talk about this. Why would you ask me that dumb question? You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to talk about this. And it's like, that's not really fair to get to be like, I don't want to talk about this, but let me just say my like thing at you. And so I feel like, yeah, there's some degree to which maybe this is like an overcorrection, but I also think it's like actually probably really necessary. And like, it's obviously on Sam for not bringing this stuff up sooner, like not realizing some of this sooner, but I don't think that means it's like wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The line I draw is mostly just like, it seems, I can definitely see, Nicole, to your point, that like Sam is not being sensitive to the things that Ozzy is asking for. But I think it goes both ways. I think also it's like, if the thing Sam needs is to talk about this and to have some, you know, whether you call it a confrontation or whatever, but some conversations that aren't going to be just in that happy place for Ozzy, and they need to have those conversations to figure out if they're going to get married, then those conversations either need to happen, or if they don't, then they're not going to get the answer. And I mean, in the following scene we get with Ozzy and Sam, where Ozzy does open up a bit about some of their past trauma, and that's where I mean, verbatim what we see, like again, could be edited. What we see is Sam says, "I do feel like I'm bending over backward to create a safe space for you to open up. Moving forward, how do you see that situation changing?" And it's that sentence right there, which I would say does not feel particularly, I mean, it's not like kind. It's not a thing saying, "Oh, Ozzy, I love you, I love you." It is like a critique, but it's also a question that Sam feels like, here, genuinely, I feel like I'm bending over backward to create a safe space in order to get married. How do you feel that situation changing? And that's the one where Ozzy says, "That's not a hard question to answer. That's obvious. That's such a dumb question. Why did you ask me that?" And that is the one that Ozzy leaves again on. And I rewatched it like 3 times going, where is the part where Ozzy is feeling like this is a personal attack, or this is something that they need to leave over the situation? And you know, like, I'm not in Ozzy's head. I didn't have Ozzy's, you know, whole life experience. So I can't see that. But I look at Sam and go, if you can't have a conversation like that, how can you have any of the many conflicts that are probably going to come up in marriage, you know?
Yeah. And then Aussie just starts calling Sam mate. And that is that,
Yeah.
I have that too. I'm like, don't call me dude. Don't call me bud. I don't like
bro.
It. No, we're not doing that right now. No.
Yeah, and the look on Aussie's face as Aussie said mate, Aussie knew what Aussie was doing.
Yes.
Like, it was intended to hurt Sam. So that didn't help. But the fact that, you know, Aussie stormed out, realized, look, I can't lose Sam. Aussie came back. So it was like, I don't want this to start a trend. Like, yeah, you may always storm out in the past, but now you're just going to storm out, and now you know you need to apologize when you come back. Like,
Which
there has to be a balance.
And that brings up a question that we got from Sarah on Twitter. I want to know the difference between Mildred and Tiff constantly breaking up, and Ozzy and Sam, you know, constantly walking out. Like, it's a fine line between that similar type of back and forth behavior.
Yeah, I literally wrote down, I was like, oh, Mildred and Aussie are the same. They they probably have like similar traumas with Mildred saying, well, like I've been abandoned and like this is someone abandoning me, and like Aussie Ori saying they didn't feel from their parents like supported and actually blamed, so that's like an emotional abandonment in a way. And like I think they both act out just in different ways, like the coping of that feeling. And Mildred's like, oh, I'm gonna break up right now, where Sam's like, I'm gonna walk out, cool off, and maybe try to like come back, and hopefully you don't touch my buttons again. It's so interesting that they gravitated towards each other.
Yeah, I think I love that. Thank you, whoever tweeted us. I love that. I think like the motivation though is quite different. Like, and not that one is like good or bad, but I just think the like I think there was actually a Succession line that popped into my head. This is not a spoiler for Succession, but at one point, someone says about Logan, like he never had a dog that he didn't want to like push away to see if it would come back. And I think that's what's happening for Mildred, where she has these like abandonment things. So she wants to push Tiff away to make sure that Tiff will come back. It's kind of like a defense of like, I need to know that you will come back. So I'm going to like try pushing you away and like see. Whereas I think for Aussie, it does feel just so related to like, I think Aussie knows that Aussie's on the verge when a conflict erupts of just like exploding. And they have spent so much time trying to like contort Aussie's self to like keep it all in their whole life, it seems. And they're just like actually really afraid of what happens when you open that door, So I think it's more about protecting the other person a little bit, honestly, or like protecting Aussie's self from like the self-image that will change if they do have this like big explosion that they're on the verge of. Whereas for Mildred, it's a lot more about kind of like testing the other person, I think.
Yeah, with Aussie's breakdown, outside of that restaurant, it was that Aussie kept saying, what about me? And like, I don't mean to hurt you. I don't mean to do these things. What about that? And it's just like, that's when it gets it down to like intent versus impact. And just like, you could mean to be the nicest person in the world, but if everyone perceives you as, hurtful, then there has to be a point when you acknowledge that. And I don't think that Aussie is at a point yet to realize, okay, this is how my behavior makes Sam feel. Maybe there is something I did wrong there. Where in Aussie's mind, it's I've done nothing wrong. I didn't intend to do anything wrong, so I did nothing wrong. So I don't want to talk about this. Oh, so it's a endless cycle. So really, that was the main thing we got from Aussie and Sam, besides like Aussie saying that Aussie would be embarrassed for Sam to meet Aussie's family because of how close-minded they are. So I wonder, is that something in Aussie's mind? Like, I need that to happen before we can decide that we want to get married. Do y'all think that they will decide do you think at the ultimatum, Aussie will propose?
I think Sam is the safest person in Aussie's life, it seems. And so I do feel that Aussie doesn't want to lose Sam. So I think it's very possible, but I also would love Aussie to be like, I need to choose myself. And I like also for Sam, but I honestly feel like for Aussie, it's like Aussie really needs to figure out a lot of stuff and how they want their life to look. And it's just like, I want them to like take that time to be with themselves. Because they just like really, really do need to deal with this. And like, it's only going to be damaging, I feel like, to the relationship to Sam to try to like, I don't know. You could do all that growth in the context of that relationship, but it seems like Sam is already at the breaking point on so many of these things. I feel like it could be good to like take space and then like maybe, see if you want to get back together, but Sam might, move on in the process, and that's life, Yeah.
What about you, Nicole? Do you think Aussie proposes?
I think Aussie proposes. I think Aussie's never really wavered on whether Aussie wants to commit to Sam. It's never that. I think there are like a lot of internal, external factors that literally like Aussie is a ball of anxiety. Rewatching their first intro when Sam was like, yeah, I need marriage right now or we're breaking up. Like Aussie's like, my heart's pounding right now. I'm anxious. And it's like, oh, Aussie is not just that in conflict. It's just like, there's so much pressure. So yeah, I think they could get engaged. I'm like, even though I'm like kind of on both sides with Aussie and Sam, I do think they can make it work. I think they could easily go to therapy, and Aussie can definitely do their solo therapy as well. And I think they would be great students. They would not be fired from a therapist like
Right.
some couples do.
Well, Aussie might.
Yeah.
There was like, Sam, I can continue working with you alone.
I could see Aussie saying to the therapist, "Why would you ask me that dumb question?"
Yeah, literally.
But
Mary,
they would come
or go ahead.
back.
Probably,
I'm
probably.
such an Aussie defender. I'm like, cool off, come back, and then learn mechanisms. That's what therapy's for.
Yeah.
They could do it.
I think the one thing we haven't really seen is, I mean, kind of toward either of them, but especially for Sam, what is it you like about Ozzy? What is it you're getting from Ozzy? What is it that you feel like is being fulfilled? You know, like we haven't seen any of that. We don't know anything about Sam's previous relationships. We don't see any of that. So if Sam is a nurturer and part of that, like wanting to be the support system for Ozzy is there, that would make sense. We just haven't been told that, so we don't know. I could see Ozzy proposing and Sam saying no, only because
that's what
Sam
I
has
think.
mentioned many times, like, if this doesn't happen, I'm walking away. And that makes me think of, if you're already thinking of walking away, maybe you'll do that even if you do get the proposal.
Yeah, that's my prediction. I think that Aussie will propose, and this will be Sam choosing herself and saying no. So we'll see what happens. So I guess speaking about, we got into Tiff and Mildred a little bit. So we did get to see this dynamic scene where I feel it showed Tiff's growth. Tiff said, we don't value each other's voices. We make up things in our head. And, you know, we come off as if we're already accusing the other person. I feel like this is not something that Tiff pre-first trial marriage would have explained in this way, because it is perfectly, yes, that is exactly what happens. But then we get into this, oh, when am I allowed to speak? You know, I just feel like I don't need permission from you to speak. I'm Latina. That's how I'm gonna be. Like, you could be an a-hole, but I'm a Latina. That's not going to change. I'm going to talk how I want to talk. Basically making it seem as if Mildred is making it seem like she is unchanged, and Tiff is the only one that needs to budge in this situation. This was a lot.
Respect has no race, I think is what Tiff said.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like Tiff, I feel like, is the one who the most is willing to like break the fourth wall on, like, when Tiff is like, I don't want to talk about marriage anymore. I read that as like, because y'all are not seriously going to get married. Like, this is only a construct for the show on some level. Like, that was my read of that, honestly. But yeah, good for, I mean, you can see, I mean, Tiff is showing up so differently. Like, when we think back to like the fight between Tiff and Sam about the dog, like this version of Sam and to Tiff, I mean, in this scene, in this whole episode, I feel like great stuff from Tiff. I have a big quibble with Tiff in a different scene with Mildred and Tiff when they're talking about Mildred's first marriage, but we could get to that after. But yeah, I do think like this one then paired with, like, I do feel like in this opening bid, Mildred is so defensive and so like holding her ground. But I do think throughout these two episodes, Mildred does shift a lot in a way that I think is actually really, really nice, personally.
Yeah. What'd you think about it, Nicole?
Yeah, I mean, crosstalk is a thing and it's cultural. So yeah, talking over each other can be common in different households, but I think, yeah, when it's conflict, that's when you give each other space to talk, to de-escalate things. And yeah, Mildred also says that she wants unconditional support from a partner. And again, you don't get unconditional things from partners. That's your parents. I
Yeah.
very much see Mildred wanting the love of a parent and a
Mm,
partner,
mm,
and testing the partner of, will you come back, because that's all I want from
mhm.
like my parents. And it's like, that's not a fair ask. Like,
Yeah.
someone needs to like address that, because in a later scene between them, Tiff says, I know so many people have left you, I'm not going to do that. And it's like, now you feel like you have to correct other people's wrongs, and that's not
Yes.
fair to you.
Yes.
So yeah, I have so much compassion for Mildred, but a lot of the things she's asking for, it's just not fair to Tiff.
Yes.
Yeah, were you gonna add to that, Evvie?
No, I just really agree with that. Like, I hate that framing of like, therefore Tiff needs to always come back because
Yeah.
otherwise Tiff is another person who abandoned Mildred. Like, I really hear you, like that was that's a rough position to be in. And it's not really fair, but I do think that scene also was where Mildred was like really being straightforward of like, I am trying to push you away sometimes, you know, and like, but I think was really I don't know. I think they really did like crack open something when we think of like how much they were not communicating previously. Like I think Tiff was really able to communicate like, I feel like you're throwing me away and I don't feel valued when you do that. And Mildred being like, you're right. Like, I do that because of these, you know what I mean? I do feel like honestly, the way that is a deeper level than we've seen them get to for sure. And so I thought that was probably the best scene that we've seen from the two of them. I feel like in the later scene when they're talking about Mildred's first marriage and like Tiff, I feel like was so unreasonable in that. Like, really, like I feel like so it's like Mildred was saying that for her in her first marriage, she realizes now that she wasn't like fully in love with her first spouse and was more like loved them but like wasn't like in love with them, which I feel like is a very kind of common thing that people realize in their like reflecting on past relationships. And Tiff just fully like makes that about the two of them and is just like, well, that's a red flag for me because how do I know that you love me? And like, it's fair to be like fear, but then it became fear as like fear in the offense. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and I think Mildred really was like articulate in that one of like really just like saying, you know, like, you're trying to put my past in our future and that's like not what's happening. And like Mildred like really stayed pretty calm in that in a way that I feel like there was a lot of growth of both of them, but including, I think we saw it in Mildred more in these two than we had in the rest of the show so far, I feel.
Yeah, and hindsight is always 2020. Of course, Mildred's gonna realize things about her past marriage that may have been different than what she thought at the time. But I do agree it's unfair of Tiff to put that on her now to make it seem like, well, how do I know if you're ready? Because then it's just like, well, we already know you're not ready. So now you're just trying to flip things on me. But yeah, I just feel like uh, so we did get this. So there are things about Mildred that Tiff does admire because we did see the beach scene where
Yeah.
they talked about, we learned more about Mildred's son who is 16 and he's special needs. And Tiff appreciates how patient Mildred is with him and how, you know, if they do get married, they like he would be living with them and it could even be beyond him turning 18. So I thought that was a very like direct, clear vision of their future, which I feel like we hadn't really got from them before. Before it's just like, yeah, we are really attracted to each other, and there is that physical. And I didn't see the depth until we got to that scene. I was like, okay, now I get a realistic picture of how this could work.
Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, I think that it would be great if everybody was 100% sure they were in love before they got married. But the conversation in that marriage, or the marriage conversation, when Tiff started bringing up like, well, don't you want for your son, don't you want that you and your wife are in love? And Mildred was like, well, yes, but like, you don't know what it's like to be a single mom. And I'm sure like the ... there, the part we didn't see was like, I want my son to have like a stable family more than I want then I'm prioritizing the love element necessarily. Because Mildred was saying like she wasn't in love with her ex-wife, but she trusted her. And I think that's probably that was probably a factor.
Exactly. And so yeah, we really didn't see much from Mildred and Tiff during the group outing. Like I feel like Mildred and Tiff, Aussie and Sam were doing their own thing, and this little love triangle was just they were
Mildred was a bit of a prop, I feel like.
Yes.
Oh, a little bit.
Yeah, I need to talk to Mildred.
You need to talk to Mildred.
Yeah.
Mildred, stand right here so I can act like I'm talking to you.
Oof, y'all. Yoli lost a lot of points in these 2 episodes, I feel like. I don't know.
I mean, I would say like this is the experiment. Don't hate the players, hate the game. Like this is what they want by the ultimatum. They want at least one couple from the swapped pairs to fall in love. And now we're just having to deal with that being our faves, and the outcome.
Before we got to the to the actual group outing, they tried to highlight some positive moments, like with Yoli and Mal. They're playing pool, having a good time. We get to go into the bedroom with them. And then we see like Ray and Lexi. Like Lexi is feeling like she's falling for Ray again. And like loves all those little moments together. And then even with Xander and Vanessa, they feel like they're dating again. And Vanessa does say she feels like she misses who they used to be, but it still was a positive date. So did y'all start to feel optimistic about any of the 3 couples before we got to the group outing?
It's hard. I mean, like I do feel like Mal is trying so hard, but is also super hurt. And like there's such distance between them, it feels like. And that bedroom scene, like it didn't go well, was the vibe. Like there was a lot of like laughing, but like awkwardness, I feel, and it's just like I felt sad, honestly, watching. Like it's like there's clearly like they're I think they both were like trying, but it just feels like Yoli's heart really isn't in it. And like they're just like always so far apart from each other, like physically. You know what I mean? Like when you go back to the scenes of like Yoli and Xander, they're so like all over each other, and like you just are not feeling like romance at all from Mal and Yoli. It's like I think Yoli says something like, "Yeah, this is what I would want in like a roommate." Like like.
And that has to be hard to hear. But Yoli was direct about, hey, I'm having trouble connecting with you romantically. So Nicole, what are you thinking about Yoli and Mal?
Oh, it's so hard to watch. But part of me is like, they're both gonna be okay. Like it's like Mal is incredible. I'm just like, I know Mal's gonna be okay if this doesn't work out for them. But yeah, it's hard to watch. It really does look like a couple who honestly have been married for years.
Yeah.
And like when Yoli talks about Mal, she says Mal is like my home, literally saying Mal is my kin. This is family, but it's not a sexual like thing. It's not the hormones you get in your brain the first time you meet someone that's like, oh, I gotta jump your bones. And like even the sex scene, which I want to say something about this whole season in sex scenes, but way to sexualize the queers. You did not do that for the straight season. But I personally thought it went well. Like I laughing during sex is like when you're comfortable, you're not putting on the whole, oh, it has to be a whole seduction. It feels so lived in their relationship. But and maybe it's unfair, but Mal did say Yoli falls hard and quickly. And competing like, the new hormones and the newness of all this to such a lived-in relationship where they have to put in work and have to talk about things like chores. It's really, really tough to compare that. And like, yeah, I feel for Mal. It seems like Mal is putting a lot of things, and then Yoli's then begrudging of like, well, I've waited 3 years. Well, this was the whole point, wasn't it? Like, so what else can Mal do when Mal's like, Mal's kind of acting out, but I understand it of saying like, well, I'm just done now. Like the romance is me cooking breakfast for you. That's not, I don't do that for everyone. And it's like, yeah, Yoli just has the hormones for someone else. It's gone.
It
Yeah.
feels like Yoli wants to live in the honeymoon phase forever.
Mhm.
And like, while I don't disagree that would be nice, and it would be nice to reignite a little bit of that every now and again, like the most important thing when it comes to marriage is I know they keep using this word a lot, like is the partnership, it is the teammate, it is the, it's the friend, it's the thing. And you need both elements. You need that and the romantic spark. But like if Mal and Yoli were just being like romance, sparks, right now, that doesn't mean that that's how it's going to be in your marriage. Like this is more realistic for what might be in the future, probably. So I don't know. If Mal came in and was trying to like romance Yoli, I don't even know if Yoli would have bought it though. Like, because Yoli's head is somewhere else, like you're saying.
He's like, but you don't touch me like Xander does. This is different. That made me think of something while you were talking, Nicole, was that the only way that this works where the ultimatum giver doesn't veer off and have other feelings, if they don't go through the experiment too. It's like if the ultimatum receiver is the only one that goes off and explores, then comes back and now they're ready. That's the only way you don't have this type of situation. Because if you have somebody who is so ready, they want someone else who is so ready. So if they find that right off the bat, what makes them say, no, but I want this, but in my original partner? When like, oh no, I could have it right here.
And that's the thing about the show that I think some people are misreading. Like the show is not about one person who's in love and another person who's not. The situation is one person wants marriage, preferably with their partner if it can work out. But if not, they want marriage with someone else,
Yeah. And I do think like it's I think it's very easy to like eye roll at Yoli and like, yeah, like, you're just like in new relationship energy with Xander and blah, blah, blah. But I do think like I feel from Yoli, like, yeah, that she's been hurt by the way that the relationship with Mal has been. Like, there's a lot of buildup of resentment on both sides. Like, you hear like Yoli, and I think it was maybe in the previous drop, say something of like Xander makes her feel like she's not hard to love, and Yoli a lot. Like Yoli in the scene in the cocktail is like to Xander, just like I choose Yoli at her worst. Like, and it's this like is romantic, but it was very, very like the vibe was very like Yoli has all these problems and I still love Yoli anyway. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, there's like realness to that and there's like grit to that and there's like real, but it feels very like, see, look how great I am because I still love her even though Yoli sucks in like all of these ways, not Yoli's the love of my life and has been for like, you know what I mean? Like it's very framed around like I accept Yoli despite, which like is true in some ways of a longer term relationship, but also like I get why that doesn't feel that good, and Yoli clearly has a lot of built up resentment against Mal also. So it does feel like possibly their thing, it's not just that it's like been a long time, it's possibly run its course. Like there might be like too much whatever is there for them to move forward regardless,
Right.
Well, that's what like I noticed when Yoli was talking about her relationship with Mal. In the very beginning, she's like, "Well, I need like sex twice a week to be nice," and it's like, okay, so the sex is the problem. But then she's like, "Well, Mal does not pick her up around the house. How am I supposed to like want to have a child with this person if they don't pick up?" So it's like, oh, okay, so it's the household stuff that's the problem. And then when the bank account comes in, I was like, Yoli, what was anything in this relationship? What was working for you? Because at this point, it's almost everything, babe. Everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it feels like that's on both ends.
Yes. Yes, I agree, because also Mal like it was like, was it about I want my finances to be set up? Was it about I'm afraid because Yoli falls hard? Was it about like Yoli's got all this like baggage and stuff? You know, I honestly feel like for both of them, it seems like there's a lot of stuff. Like you know what I mean? And the fact that it shifts is like, well, maybe you just are really comfortable with each other and don't want to lose each other because you are family and your lives are really integrated. But like that scene with Yoli and Mal and Mal's friend, like, holy cow, like that's get out of there, Mal. Like, you know, like I feel like they're done. Like, and Mal is just really trying to like, I feel for Mal both that she genuinely doesn't want to lose Yoli and wants to be like, I left it all out on the court. You know what I mean? Whether or not she actually feels like she wants to get married to Yoli the second, I feel like there's an element of like, I just want to show that I did every single thing I could. And if we still break up, it's obviously not my fault. Like, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, because even so, like going into the group outing, I just feel like there should have been so many red flags for Mal in the way that Yoli spent 75% of the time, at least that we saw, trying to get to Xander or talk to Xander. And it was just like, even at the moment where Xander and Yoli were outside and Yoli's like, are you an Aysha? Like, should scoot this way, scoot this way. Xander had to check that situation to say, hey, I'm still trying to be respectful. Like I want to, but if it was on Yoli, she would have made out with Xander right then and there with Mal inside waiting for her.
Yoli said, I love you to Xander in front of Mildred.
Yes.
Like that was so, and like, it really felt like Mildred was there to be like cover, like, you know, and like, yeah, Yoli, I'm sorry, that was shady as hell. The way Yoli was acting during the cocktail party, and like Mal, like that was probably the time I was most anti Yoli and most pro Mal. Like Mal was being incredibly generous. I feel, you know, of like, okay, like if this is a trust thing, like do what you got to do, you know. But like that was really, really, really not cool. And
do you give
yeah,
any negative side to Xander for that too, or is it all on Yoli for you?
No, I mean definitely for Xander as well, but I feel that like Yoli was the one like bringing up the like, are we in Eyeline? I'm gonna go talk to Mildred, but obviously Xander also was like I mean, we didn't see Xander and Vanessa together at all. Like,
yeah,
you know, like,
I mean, Xander said, let's do this thing. It's on you. Like, the ball is in your court, basically.
I can't. I really can't, because we're on a show. Okay, we got deadlines, a schedule. I get it. But if we're at the point where the first time I see you, you're talking about running away, putting a ring on my finger. Let's go have these babies. Like, why can't we just call it? Like, part of me is like Team Mal of like, y'all doing a lot. So let's just talk right here.
Yeah.
Who's choosing who? And I can dip out. And they change up so much when Yoli, I'll give Yoli this. Yoli says, straight up tells Mal, I do love another person. Xander, at the very beginning, when reunited with Vanessa, avoided saying that.
He's like, I don't know.
They love. And it's like, that's not true. But then you go back and you're talking about marrying this other girl, putting the pressure on. And then when Mal's just like, let's just be straight up about this. Then all of a sudden Xander wants to scoot around and be like, I choose myself. Yeah, it's like, you're not talking about walking away by yourself, Xander. What are you talking about? And then Yoli being like, and like, even with Yoli, she is so flip-floppy, even with Xander. Because Xander's like, let's get married. Let's get to the altar in your white dress. And Yoli's like, I do. I don't. And it's like, Yoli, are we getting this bank account money for these babies or not? Like, come on.
And it's so hard because I get the fact that Yoli understands she has more time. It's not the day that she has to make the decision. So she's taking full advantage of the fact that she can go back and forth. But like, Mal is 36. Mal is not trying to play games. Mal said, Xander, do you choose Yoli the way that I choose Yoli? And of course, Xander's not going to answer in that moment because that would be Xander's choice. But I can say I do agree with Yoli later after the group where Yoli's like, Mal's like, oh, Xander doesn't choose you like I choose you. And Yoli's like, you're trying to take the decision away from me. And Mal's like, no, I'm not. I think, yes, you kind of are because you're trying to say Xander is not choosing you. Therefore, Xander is not at the place to get to propose to you or for y'all to be together after this. Like Xander did not choose you over Vanessa, but it's like it's not the time yet to make that decision according to the show's timeline. So I get Yoli's frustration there. It's just like so everybody's in the wrong here.
Yeah, and it really I should say very very rough to watch Xander be so in private, like, Yoli, let's do this thing, and then let Vanessa still also think there's a chance. Like, that is really painful. I think, like, as much as Yoli, it almost is like torturing Mal, it feels. It's like Vanessa is maybe not getting the full truth in some of these scenes. And I think Xander, like, just is a people pleaser vibe and, like, doesn't want to necessarily hurt Vanessa in that way, but like it's gonna freaking hurt Vanessa in that way if you don't leave with her, you know?
Yeah, this was a lot, and they were holding Yoli and Xander were holding hands out on the like balcony. I was just like, oh my goodness, it just
the holding hands hit me harder than almost anything else. I'm like, oh no. Yeah, and we talked about this in the last drop. There's clearly something going on, or there was clearly something more with Vanessa, because when Vanessa just walks over to a table and is like, so how's everything going? Everybody thinking about the engagement, and everyone just leaves instantly except for Sam, and Vanessa's like, well, that was weird. I do like, I love the way that Vanessa, whether intentionally or not, being the villain, is like, it's so one-sided. Like Vanessa does not seem to really like have major feelings about anyone else besides, like, you know, some issues with Yoli. That's like pretty much it.
yeah.
Well, go ahead, Nicole.
I think Vanessa has such a facade, though.
Yeah.
You know, I think that that's not true at all, but she just like most of the time won't let herself get there. Like when she literally had that sit down dinner with Xander and was like, I have to keep talking myself up or else I'll like cry. I'm like, I have a feeling you have felt that way since episode 1 when you were talking about how hot you were, you know? Like that was just like the small kernel of truth there that's like, yeah, I think you're a really fragile person more than you let on, and it comes out in wild ways that off-puts a lot of people.
And I interpreted the everybody walking away because I'm pretty sure one of the people was Ray. And I do think Ray, and we can, when we're ready to talk about Lexi and Ray, which maybe we can transition, like,
yeah,
I think Ray, and as we saw in the aftermath, Ray was not allowed to talk to Vanessa. And I think Ray had to immediately walk away or she would be in trouble, as she was, for not walking away quick enough every single time. So, you know, there's some like, Vanessa clearly, you know, I think Vanessa, is putting on a performance a lot of the time. And I don't think she's malicious. And I think people are being a little malicious at her often. And by people,
I feel like the scales have tipped a little bit more. Like it was very Vanessa heavy at the beginning, and now we're at the point where it's like Vanessa isn't doing as much, but the damage has been done, so people are just like. But I have a question, like on the Lexi and Ray point. Like, yes, we saw Lexi frustrated with the fact that Ray even looked at Vanessa and gave her a hug, because that was just criminal, apparently.
Yes.
What happened to Lexi and Mal? Like, I literally last week, I'm like,
because they weren't
they're my
real.
second favorite couple. Literally,
Not
I was like, I was fooled.
I told you.
You did.
It was I there was and I actually did go back and rewatch some stuff from the beginning because I'm like, wait a second, I thought that this was the thing, and I watched and I'm like, pretty sure that they just cut out the part that's like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if we actually liked each other? Yeah, it would be like, and then they cut that part out and then they show the scene.
It's
ridiculous.
Or
It's
that
like-
they were actually doing that to each other, but then in the back of the mind, well, not really, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a huge age gap there. I don't know. I'm just mad that Mal was on television talking about having interracial children with Lexi and going on about like Black women's hair when it's like, yeah, it was not real. Like, can we chill out like,
Yeah, I'm
just
like-
a little bit?
With Yoli, you would also have interracial children.
Mal says our children in that, you know, like that's
Mhm.
what, and Lexi's down for that. And that's why I'm like, I do feel like there's hypocrisy with both of them then being so upset at their partners also. Cause like, yeah, you were saying that. Like you really were saying that. Like,
But I
like,
think it's also very queer to
Yes.
be like, we could easily start daydreaming about having children after like 2 dates and then just be like, oh, but in my right mind, I'm going back to my ex. I'm going back to my ex. What are you talking about?
I was just so bamboozled. We literally got one scene of Lexi and Mal talking to each other where it was Lexi asking Mal about Yoli, like, how's it going with Yoli? And then Mal's like, oh, look, everybody's walking, so we should go. It's like, what? So y'all don't even have anything. There's no closure that needs to happen. This is just a wrap,
They're
apparently.
friends.
okay.
They're
And
friends.
Lexi and Ray walk up to Mal. Lexi says, hi, wifey.
Yeah.
And then is annoyed at Ray forever, like looking in the direction of Vanessa. It's so hypocritical.
Yes.
I am so frustrated with Lexi during these.
But
Like,
there's no danger there. Like,
but there's no danger with Ray and Vanessa either. Like, I feel like there's such an emphasis on that they had this like physical moment, but there's never been a time where Ray is like, I like Vanessa in that
That's
way.
true.
You know what I mean? And then she's never presented anything to Lexi of like that she wants that or to Vanessa. Whereas as we said, Lexi and Mal were saying that shit to each other, even if it wasn't that real. They really were. And so it's like, I actually feel like, yes, obviously there was like the physical thing that happened with Ray and Vanessa, but I just don't think that is that big of a deal. And like Lexi is like acting like there's such a threat to Vanessa where it's like Ray came back. Like Ray's talking about Ray. Ray's not talking about Vanessa. You're talking about Vanessa. You know, like
There's
Yeah.
a rom-com here. There totally is. Because like even just rewatching from the first, I was like, obviously their whole problem started because Lexi and Vanessa were dating and considering each other. And I somehow forgot. Like it was like, and this I watched it last week, totally forgot because we're at such a hateful place. But I'm like, there's an enemies to lovers shenanigans thing happening here because like at least Lexi's a little honest because when she later talks to Ray, she was like, oh, Vanessa's still a problem in this relationship. And Ray's like, no, she's not. But Ray's talking about her feelings. Lexi's talking about her feelings about Vanessa. She is in her head and she cannot get her out.
Yeah. My Married at First Sight co-host, Jason Reed, he was like, Vanessa needs to start paying rent because she is living rent-free in Lexi's head. That's all Lexi can think about.
Yes.
Every conversation is like, yes, but what about that one time with Vanessa? It's like, has Ray brought up Vanessa at all? Like, it doesn't seem like Ray like left the scenario being like, oh, I might want to be with, like, this isn't a Yoli and Xander scenario.
Right.
Yeah, that's what was frustrating because was it in this drop that it was the last one in episode 6 with Lexi and Ray and Lexi's parents. It's just like, good Lord. But yeah, Lexi wants Vanessa to no longer be a part of her life. That can happen. Just stop
She's not a
talking
part
about
of your
her.
life. Like it's like, Lexi is the one making Vanessa a part of their life at this point. Like, it's very, very clear. And like, it's ultimately pushing Ray away, like very clearly, I think. You know what I mean? Like maybe in an initial thing, Ray is like feeling guilty and therefore like will like try with Lexi. But I do think ultimately like the degree to which Lexi is just pounding into Ray of like Ray being a bad person for this, even though it's like all about Lexi's feelings for Vanessa, like is so damaging to their relationship. Like, and if they're together after, I mean, Lexi made Ray feel horrible on like, and like over and over and over and over and over again. And that's not going to give Lexi what she wants, you know?
Exactly. And I feel like how I feel similarly about how Sam has more of a personality when she's not with Oxy. I feel like that's the same with Ray. I feel like Ray has way more of her, like she's way more sure of herself, way more confident without Lexi. And it's like Lexi just has this goal of tearing her down, at least in this during the second trial marriage. And that's like very frustrating. So we did get to see, if we loop back around to Xander and Vanessa, they do meet up with Vanessa's dad, Mark, which Mark.
MVP. MVP.
Good.
Mark correctly points out that Vanessa all of a sudden is feeling this way because Vanessa does not want to lose Xander.
Yes.
Yes, that's it.
Yes. That's
like he clocked his daughter.
Yeah.
Hate to say it.
Yeah. It was so clear, very perfect. It's like,
Yeah,
let's be honest, this is ego. This is not wanting to lose Xander. It's just like, yes, that's obviously what's happening. Like,
yes.
and we do know, I mean, from the very beginning, the shift happened when Vanessa thought there was a chance of losing Xander, everything changed. But before that, she was so all about freedom and dating around and like whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just like be honest with yourself. And like this like intense like fear of losing Xander is not the foundation of we should get married. Like,
yeah, exactly. So then if we go back to the one couple who we actually do make it to the ultimatum and decision is answered day. So with Mal and Yoli, they do have one more argument where like Mal just doesn't know what to do at this point. Mal is like, look, what do you want us to do? Fight over you? Like, I'm telling you we can do this thing. I'm telling you we can go to therapy. I'm telling you it's a point of like, I have no idea what more do you want for you to move on from Xander and for you to want to choose me again, because hey, Yoli was there. I will stand on that hill forever that it doesn't matter that Yoli goes all in on the relationships. If it's with you, you're the one she's choosing at the moment. So that, but Mary, what did you think about this argument with Mal and Yoli?
I feel like Mal is like right has great intentions and is and does feel like Mal came into this experiment with the end goal always being Yoli. It didn't feel like Mal was ever really going to go in any other direction. And I can't imagine how frustrating it would be to have the person that you were always okay marrying, you just, didn't realize you needed to change a little for them, now feel like they have other options. I I feel like we learned a lot when we saw Mal with Aysha, because like this is, the same person who when Mal was with Lexi, Aysha was like, wait, no, but like Yoli's a part of our, my life. Like I like Yoli, whatever. And this felt like it was a complete 180, where Aysha was like, oh, this is not what I was expecting. I am very confused about all of this. We learn a lot more about where like circle back to the finances issue and all of that. So I'm not really sure what more Mal could be doing in this scenario. This is the kind of thing where it's like either Yoli needs to trust that Mal will try to like keep stepping it up in the way that Yoli wants, but it doesn't feel like, I guess I'm kind of sad, especially for Mal being the one who received the ultimatum, that it doesn't feel like Mal is able to even say, like Mal's putting all the energy into like, Yoli, I love you, be with me, that Mal's not even getting a chance themselves to be like, this is also what I want. Maybe this is some things that I learned that I'm looking for. It just feels like the whole thing is so one-sided of Mal trying to convince Yoli of their own growth that we're not getting to see anything that Mal might want as well.
Yeah, it's so sad. I mean, when Aysha was like, what's best for Mal, you know, like it's Mal at this point, this is not good. Like, you know, like the bringing up the finances and like that was rough. And like also like was kind of wild because it was at the beginning, Mal was like, I have this idea that we shouldn't get married until my finances are in order. And Yoli was like, no, we should get married anyway. And now Yoli's like, your finances aren't in order, but like Xander's are. Like that was really hard to watch. And it's like, it's just very clear that, you know, it's like a Greek tragedy. You know what I mean? It's like they just like found each other, like they were not at the same place at the same time. And it does feel like, honestly, like to me, it seems like the ship has sailed and now there's too much hurt here to recover from. And that is sad because there was a time when each of them really wanted the other, but I just don't think it was the same time. And it's like, even if Yoli is to say yes to Mal, this is like not going to go away for Mal that all this happened. And I think that's very reasonable. And Mal was already insecure about how much Yoli like really like wants them versus wants someone. And like, this is not going to help. And like, I just unfortunately think like the damage might be too deep, you know?
Yeah. Nicole, what do you think about Yoli's decision to bring up this finances situation with Aysha?
I'm even trying to think if, I'm trying to think if she even brought it up or if Aysha brought it up. But either way, it was the most wild, like it was the biggest drop to me, like bigger than like the finger gate.
Finger gate, not finger gate.
Because it was just like, oh, like it just got so real in such a real way. Like, and it's like, yeah, I wish more people and like, and even when we're in these types of situations, could just get out of a relationship without trying to find faults and like what could have been done, who's at fault that it didn't work. Because I feel like a lot of the Mal and Yoli situation is just both of them trying to find faults to then excuse of why they're going to break up. And it's like, maybe it just ran its course. Like, I don't think Yoli's a bad person for being more interested in Xander and like being excited and finding all these other things, even though Mal is showing up. Like Yoli is not discounting that. But I just really do hate that in the beginning, the whole game of the ultimatum does have a power dynamic of someone needs to change this or I'm walking. And then it feels like someone has to be at fault. It's like, if you lose the game, like you didn't do something right. And it's like, no, I don't think so. But like, I also felt like in that scene, Aysha was also getting dumped by Yoli. Like, I was just thinking of how she had Yoli's back. She said Yoli's the homie. I don't know who this little 24-year-old was that was 11 when we were in college. And then Yoli's sitting here like, no, I saw the bank account. And then I know it's just editing, like maybe something else happened. But when we see Yoli say, I'm out, and she just I was like, and Aysha and Mal are just like, this is trash. Like there was nothing else to say. Oh, devastating but comical at the same time.
And we can't forget, I could not stop noticing how Mal and Aysha were like dressed alike. Like they both had like the yellow and the black, and I was like, oh, this looks really good. Like you two look like you coordinated this.
They look good. I just felt like Yoli had word vomit and she shared way too much. But I think that's been the theme. They're all oversharing with everybody every chance that they get, and it's causing the maximum amount of hurt. Because every time Mal is finding out something new, like Mal didn't even know about the selfie that Xander sent. And Mal didn't know about the finances. Like, oh, now it's clear. Now I get it. So it's just like, I don't know how they bounce back from this, but they do make it to the ultimatum and Mal proposes.
Oh man.
Even with Yoli saying, I'm still in love with someone else at that moment.
And Yoli like kind of refusing to move closer. Like Mouse was like, "Can you move closer?" And she's like, "I don't know." And it's like, Yoli, what do you know? What do you know, girl?
Yeah. I feel like Yoli's tears were tears of sad. Like, I can't believe I'm gonna have to break up with Mal as Mal is proposing to me. That is like, I don't want her to say yes, because if she says yes, it's only gonna, I think, just elongate the pain period for them. I don't think they're coming back from this in a good way. Like,
yeah, because even if it is a yes, she's not done with Xander.
Right.
Like, there's either going to be cheating or like a, hey, give me a period to have some closure. I mean, we do see in the previews, she's in her ultimatum outfit kissing Xander. So is that a goodbye kiss? Or is that a, hey, I already said yes to proposal, but hey, I want to say goodbye? Like, it's too much. Like, if you've said yes to a proposal, that should be it. You should be done. It's like on The Bachelorette years ago, Rachel Lindsay like kissed her second place as she was saying goodbye, and it was the most passionate thing ever. So okay, round robin. Do y'all think that Yoli will say yes?
No.
Evvie, no.
No.
Mary,
No.
Oh,
Sadly,
I kind of think she will say yes. I think it's tough, but I think that she can't let Mal go.
Maybe she'll do another. I do. I don't. I do and I don't. I do and I don't.
I think the thing is, though, I don't know for sure, but my guess is the show, if they think that Yoli is at all on the line, they're going to make Xander propose to Yoli as well. Or like at least that they're going to make see both conversations before Yoli gives like a direct answer potentially.
Oh my gosh. What an emotional roller coaster. It was hard enough watching these 4 episodes twice. Because I'm like, I have to watch it as soon as it's out. Like, I don't want anybody on Twitter spoiling it. And so then I watch it for enjoyment, and then I watch it again for the podcast. And this is just an emotional 4 episodes.
Yeah. I feel for Mal. I mean, I feel for Yoli too. Like, everyone's I saw a tweet that was like, the ultimatum is the Stanford prison experiment for lesbians. And it's not wrong. Like, everyone's going through something. And I just, it sucks. It sucks.
Yeah.
But then I still genuinely think they're going to be okay.
In life.
Yes.
Yeah. In life. Yes. They will be okay coming out of this no matter what happens. But it's scary. Yeah. But yes, any last thoughts about these 2 episodes or this whole drop as a whole, Nicole?
Yeah, one big thing, I just want to talk about the sex because there's so much of it. And I went back to the original, the Ultimatum, to be like, was there that many bedroom scenes and night cams? And there really wasn't. Like, there wasn't even like a last night thing between the straight couples before they broke up to date each other. And like the big thing that we did see that was giving what these sex scenes in this season is when Zay and Homegirl apparently did something. We saw that in the sheets. And I feel like that was only included because it's like, this is an original couple. We're going to have to deal with this later. And I have multiple feelings about it because it's like, was it just that these queer couples were more physical, therefore they felt the need to include it? But even I part of me feels like the producers felt like, because some straight people feel this way about queer people, is that they can only think about the sex. So I'm just like, why was there so much? And like, yeah, why, and what's like the intent? I mean, I think everyone's hot. I'm not against seeing it, but it's just a huge discrepancy between the original.
I think that's true for the Ultimatum, but I think it probably, I don't know when they edited this season because we know they filmed it at the same time as the first one, but compared to some of the Netflix shows that have been coming out more recently, made by the same people, like the most recent season of Love is Blind had a lot more like showing sexual content than the previous ones did, to the point where we were like, whoa, these zoom ins, like there is thrusting action happening and we are seeing it. Like, so I don't know that I think you have some point, but I also wonder if it might be like a trend towards like how they're editing some of these shows nowadays.
But even with Love is Blind, it was specifically the Black couple,
That's a good point.
And I'm just pointing this out because it's giving a little like, ooh, this is so different and so new. Let's like watch. And it's like, you can watch your own stuff if you're interested in that. But then in a way, I was kind of like, it's giving the real L word. Like those people were going in and they were just real people. It's like, that's wild. So.
Yeah. I'm definitely of multiple brains about it also. Like, I think I totally hear what you're saying of like, there's such an element where like when you over sexualize, especially like women and like queer women. And then it's like, who is this for? Like, is this like male gaze or like straight gaze at it? It's like extremely problematic. I think for me, and maybe it's because I'm a queer person watching it, I didn't feel that way from it. Like, cause in the sense that it didn't feel like gratuitous, like Girls Gone Wildy. You know what I mean? It felt more like we're seeing actually like the passion and like depth of some of these relationships in some ways. I don't know. That's what I was getting from it more. And also like in a sense of, I think there's also sometimes this like straight thing of like, what do y'all even do? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is there even like,
is there like an educational element to this? Like, that sounds so weird to say, but I wonder if the show is like, we want to like, I don't know, like look, people, look, they have sex too. Like, I don't really know. I don't know exactly what it was.
It just feels like they included every single time it happened. And it's like, I get the first time of being like, okay, they reached this like physical thing, but it's literally every time. I was kind of shocked by the Xander and Vanessa being the last one we got.
The last one was the one where I was like, whoa,
I
that's
feel like I was actually seeing penetration.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, it for me it's like, I understand they have to show us like the new couples that they reached that level of intimacy, but to watch the original couples feels like such an invasion of privacy. I know it's the same act, but these are couples that have been together for like 3 years, and then all of a sudden we're in their bedroom, you know? It
Totally
feels a little out of place. But thank you so much, Nicole, for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
I know we were supposed to have you on for Love is Blind, and we ran out of time, so I'm so glad that we were able to have you on. Where can people keep up with you and what you're doing?
You can keep up with me just across socials. I'm Nikki Bernice on Twitter, Nikki Bernice Insta on Instagram, and Nikki Bernice TikTok on TikTok. I'm just going to be talking about more pop culture stuff. Just loving it.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Evvie, where can people find you?
I am on Twitter and Instagram at Evvie Jagoda. I also have a TikTok account with that same handle, but it is currently hacked. So if you're listening to this, please give that a report. Someone has stolen it from me. I'm trying to get it back. So that would actually be super helpful to me if you go ahead and report that. So keep a lookout on Twitter and Instagram for real me content. And there's hopefully going to be some new Pride Has Spoken episodes coming your way throughout this month. So stay tuned for that.
Lovely. And Mary, where can people find you?
As always, you can follow me everywhere at Frail Mary. And actually, also, this is niche. If you're interested in ultra running, I made a second TikTok. Sorry, Evvie, to rub it in that I've got two while you have
zero. What the hell?
But I made a second TikTok called, wait for it, Trail Mary. So feel free to check that one out if you're interested in trail and ultra running.
Oh, I love that name.
Yeah, I'm trying to diversify so people who are not interested in running don't have to look at that content on my other social media.
It's actually kind of mind-blowing because I can't fathom that people want to run that long. But y'all can follow me on all social media at Aysha Like Aysha. That's AYSHA like ASIA. Of course, podcasting about the current season of Married at First Sight over on my podcast, A Perfect Match, with my co-host Jason Reed. We just covered episode 22, and I think there's supposed to be about 25 or 26 episodes. So we're watching so that everyone else does not have to. So go listen to the podcast, and you can enjoy it. And then you could also follow my second TikTok at Malshi Poo Sisters to keep up with my dogs, Pepper and Cinnamon, if you want to, over on TikTok. So thank y'all so much for sticking with us. We will be back to cover episodes 9 and 10 to close out the season. I know, I'm so excited. So excited. But thank you for sticking with us, and we will see y'all next week. Bye.
Bye.